Hello, everyone. I've had a few questions about the BC MAR implementation communication plan assignment, and so I thought I would just take a few minutes to quickly go over that with you all. So I think the first thing would be that I would advise you to do is to go to the Margaret A text and read pages 165 to 169. This is going to give you a really good overview of kind of what I'm looking for, what a communication plan is, and essentially I'm using her template. We're using her template for this assignment in terms of like a sample communication plan structure. So definitely take the time to go over those pages. So that was 165 to 169, okay? So after you're done reading that, let's kind of jump in here. So you have this scenario where you are the health information manager at a 25-bed critical access hospital. You wear many hats at the organization and currently oversee all HIM department functions, the management, maintenance, and implementation of the EHR, and privacy and security. The organization has been sequentially implementing and adopting the EHR in a modular fashion, and you are now charged with the implementation and adoption of the BC MAR module for the EHR system. So while you guys were, working in your pairs or your groups over the last couple of weeks to come up with that workflow redesign for the BC MAR application, through that you were able to identify some stakeholders. You maybe talked about ways to engage those stakeholders and some of the challenges that there may be in that. And so I'm looking for you to kind of, think back on those discussions that you had and then kind of turn that into a way to help communicate this implementation. So what you want to do is you want to think about the messages that need to be sent, right? This can be as high level as you like, or as detailed as you like. I'm really open to whatever. The main thing is that I'm looking for you to come up with 8 key messages at a minimum. You can sure come up with more if you want, to address in this table. And so maybe I'll just quickly read the instructions and I can kind of talk about some examples. So you are going to develop a communication plan by completing the table below and sharing your rationale for each key message. Your plan should be based on the findings from the workflow and process mapping assignment you completed with your group in Unit 5, and you should have a minimum of 8 key messages. Please also provide a brief summary in which you describe your rationale behind each key message / row of the table. So as you can see, here's where your key messages are. So you're going to provide some rationale, a summary of that for each message. Please address the following in your rationale summary for each key message. Where possible, support your rationale with information from your textbooks and research. Of course, cite all sources within the text and on a reference page in APA format. So first you're going to describe the key message, then you're going to explain why you chose the key message. Explain why you chose to communicate the message to the receiver. That is not written very well. Or the stakeholder identified. You're going to explain why you chose the message to come from the person you selected as the sender, and explain why you chose the communication medium that you did. So those are the 4 elements that I want you to address in that rationale. And that can just simply be a bulleted, maybe a paragraph for each, whatever, just it can be very clear and succinct. But again, try to support what you're saying, or provide the rationale for why you're sending that message and from who and why and all that good stuff. So let me just think about some examples here quickly. As I kind of think back on what I most commonly see are kind of, maybe you have one key message that addresses awareness. So the planning of barcode medication administration application. So, hey everybody, we're going to be implementing this software, right? Here's why it's needed, that kind of thing, okay? Then we need stakeholder engagement. That's obviously something that needs to be communicated, or I shouldn't say that is something that needs to be communicated. You need to figure out how you're going to communicate with those stakeholders to get them engaged, sorry. And so think about that. What kind of message would you want to send out about that? You know, maybe one of the messages is the benefits and value of BCMAR. Maybe that's what you want to communicate. And I think that that's part of getting engagement. Maybe one of your communication messages is simply the implementation plan. Here's a timeline, and this is how it's going to be rolled out. You know, it could be, then maybe you talk about, maybe one of the messages is training, you know, how this is how training is going to go, and here's the plan. And I'm trying to think if there's any others. Maybe maybe the time that you take to do the workflow and process redesign, right? That's obviously a really key essential step. How are you going to communicate that and get stakeholder engagement, all that good stuff. So think about those things. I hope I've given you enough examples, but think about that, and you know, you can really make it, like I said, as high level as you want, or if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, that is fine too, okay? If you look at your workflow and you want to maybe break that down, maybe it's the communication plan is very specific to nursing department or pharmacy, however you want to do it. But because I know you've all done different levels of research, and so maybe one thing really kind of stood out to you and that's what you want to focus on. I'm okay with that. Trying to think if there's anything else. I guess I don't really think so. The main thing is your deliverables. Just make sure you have that table completely filled in and that you provide that summary, the rationale for each of the messages, and support it where you can with research or with information from the Margaret A. text. Okay? All right. If you have any questions, of course, do not hesitate to email me. I'm always here. You guys are kind of a quiet group. I don't get a lot of questions, so I appreciate the ones I do get. And make sure you're reading my feedback on the assignments, because I do give pretty detailed feedback. And so I'll be getting back to grading workflow redesigns right now. So have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.